Okay, welcome this afternoon to Rebbetzen Ilana Epstein. The talk that she is giving to us is Xmas Myths and why Chanukah is the festival of light. I actually have met Ilana. She came to Bushy, or Ilana, probably 18 months ago, spent a Shabbos with us and gave us a very interesting talk at that particular time. So we're very interested to hear your talk this afternoon. Rebbetzen Ilana Epstein is presently one of half of the rabbinic team from Cockfosters and New Southgate Shore, shortly to transfer to Marble Arch, Mazel Tov. In addition to her many shore activities, she is part of the Jewish Futures Trust, contributed towards the Living and Learning Project at the US, managing the High Holidays companion booklet, runs a weekly Jewish history column, and appears on social media with her how to cook instructional videos. So, Ilana, a busy lady, thank you for taking the time to come to us this afternoon. Over to you.
Thank you so much for asking me. The truth is, this is one of my favorite talks, and I don't get many opportunities to give it. So just the opportunity to talk to you about this is great. We're going to start with a few things. Firstly, this is a talk based on a talk I heard by Rabbi Lawrence Kelman. So the work is not all mine. I got it from someone else. If you want to hear the original talk, I'm happy to send you the link, but hopefully I'll do it justice. Let's get our hands up, because to answer questions, one finger is yes, two is no. So anyone ever sung along to a Christmas carol in the car? Yes, come on. I don't believe anyone who's going to say they haven't.
Of course we have.
Most people, I will say, have sung along. Anyone ever watched a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Anyone really enjoy the lights when they go up on Regent Street? We are all a product of the world we live in, and these are things which are joyful and beautiful. I actually realized I had like 2 magazines in the house, both Christmas magazines. I didn't stop for a second to think, should I buy them, should I not? I did. And the whole Christmas thing hasn't put me off, even though I'm going to give you an entire talk on why it should put you off. But just before you think any of it is coming from a judgment point of view, know that I really do enjoy this period of the year. I get into it along with everyone else. And it's very hard for me to actually remind myself that this isn't our holiday, that I'm actually supposed to approach it with caution. But let's get into it, and I want you guys to draw your own conclusions as well. If you have any pressing questions that come up while I'm speaking, put them in the chat and we'll get to it later. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers once we are done. So if you have a question, put it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll open it up, the floor to questions at the end. What is Christmas celebrating? Stuart, since you're unmuted, go ahead. What are we celebrating on Christmas?
You mean as a nation in terms of what goes on? What is
celebrated by those who celebrate?
The birth of Christ, isn't it?
The birth of Jesus, right? Anyone think it's anything else? So 1 is yes, birth of Jesus. 2 is no, something other than the birth of Jesus. 1, birth of Jesus, right? Everyone, oh, we have a 2 coming from Martin Moss and company. Well done. We've got someone who's on with us. 2 from Ronnie. Thank you. Excellent. So we have people who already know where I'm going with this, which is brilliant. So when was Jesus born? Common, every celebration out there, every red and green decoration you see, every bough of holly out there is telling you that Jesus was born on the 25th of December on the year 1. Now, here's the thing. He wasn't. He wasn't, and he wasn't, and he wasn't, to the point that the earliest gospel that's written, the earliest gospel that is written, which is Luke, which is written in the year 65 of the Common Era, has no mention of Jesus' birth. The next two Gospels, Matthew and Luke, are written about the year 200. They do give you that nativity scene, you know, the inn was full, the whole bit, but they don't actually mention a date. It seems that in all of the Gospels, the date isn't all that important. When do we get a date? There's people who are discussing it. And there's a man, a Scythian monk called Dionysius Exegesis, who calculates the year of Jesus's birth. Dionysius Exegesis lives in the year 533, and his calculation was wrong. For those of you who are mathematically inclined, let's see, I will send you the workings of Dionysius Exegesis at the end. I'll put it in the chat, and you could go through it and you could see where he's made a mistake. And why has he made this mistake? Because Luke and Matthew contradict each other about when Jesus is born. So it's a forgivable mistake. But just like we Jews have people who are our top rabbis, one of Catholicism's top people, his name is Joseph A. Fitzmyer. He's the professor emeritus of biblical studies at the Catholic University of America. He is a member of the Pontifical Biblical Commission, and he writes in the Catholic Church's official commentary on the New Testament. So this guy has got a lot of stuff going for him. This is what he writes. Though the year of Jesus's birth is not reckoned with certainty, the birth did not occur in AD 1. The Christian era, supposed to have starting point in the year of Jesus's birth, is based on a miscalculation introduced in circa 533 by Dionysius Exegesis. So contemporary church fathers already tell you that us in 2020 are actually counting wrong. Chances are Jesus was born in the year 3 before the Common Era. So actually, it's not 2020. Who knew? This whole year was a whole mistake, but we'll live with it for now. So we've already established that the year is wrong, but we're discussing the date here. Let's discuss the date of Jesus's birth. We all say it's the 25th, or most of us, the 25th of December. So the De Pascha Computus, which is a document that is believed to be written in Northern Africa in the year 243 of the Common Era, says that Jesus is born on March the 28th. Not quite December, right? Then we have Bishop Clement of Alexandria, who dies in the year 215 of the Common Era. And he says, no. Jesus is born on November the 18th. So now we have March the 28th, November the 18th, and Fitzmyer, our big scholar of the Catholic Church, says no. Jesus was born on September the 11th, the year 3 before the Common Era. So be it March the 28th, November the 18th, or September the 11th, the one date none of them mention is the 25th of December. So how do they come to be celebrating Christmas on the 25th of December? Good question, right? Anyone have any ideas which they'd like to chime in right now?
It reflected a pagan festival at the time and broke up the depth of the winter.
Brilliant. It did reflect a pagan festival, and the winter bit is brilliant because for as long as the world has been around, the Midrash in Genesis, so the allegorical telling of the Torah, tells us something really interesting. Adam, right, our first man, sees winter coming. He's never experienced winter before. The days get shorter and shorter and shorter with no explanation. What are you going to think as the sun is no longer up in the sky for as long of a period. If the world started in Tishrei, right, September, all of a sudden your days start getting shorter and shorter. The world, it's coming to an end, right? It's not going to get any better. He thinks darkness is going to reign. And then all of a sudden, the days start getting longer and longer. And you have this progression, but because Adam hasn't experienced it before, he's terrified. This is a bad thing. And then when the light starts shining again, he celebrates. Every culture has a winter-based celebration, and it's a celebration of light and renewal. We have one too. The Midrash says long before Chanukah happened, we knew it would happen at this particular time because we needed to celebrate light. So it's not coincidental that there's a celebration, but there's a pagan celebration. In Rome of old, there was a celebration called Saturnalia. How many of you have heard of it? One is for yes, two is for no. Yes. So Saturnalia was celebrating the pagan god Saturn. Right? Saturn is the god of harvest. He's the god of miraculous nature. And how was the festival celebrated? It was a 7-day period from the 17th of December to the 24th, with the culmination being the 25th of December, big parties. And for that entire week, the Roman courts would close. And they would close because it was a week where you could do anything. It was a week away from all types of rules, all restrictions. There was naked dancing in the street. There was sexual license. There was anything you could imagine was being done. And the reason to close the courts was because all behavior was permissible. There was nothing to punish. So how do they off balance all this promiscuousness and irresponsibility? They would elect one person, the Lord of Misrule. By the way, here in the UK, the Lord of Misrule was around well into Tudor times. So it doesn't disappear that fast. The Lord of Misrule was someone from each community who was voted the Lord of Misrule. He was the king for the week. And for his troubles at the end of the week, he was sacrificed. He was pelted and he was stoned to death, and he would take away all the sins of that week of complete license. It was a crazy, crazy time. Some of the minhagim, the customs connected with Saturnalia, you may recognize, not the human sacrifice, not that, but people would go door to their neighbors' houses, knock on the door, and sing. Any remind you guys of anything? I could see Daphne mouthing caroling. So yes, caroling, this is where it starts, but they would do it naked. So not so much the way we do it nowadays. Rape and sexual license were everywhere. And one of the things which I thought was really interesting, their custom was to eat biscuits shaped like humans. So maybe the forebearer for gingerbread men. So this is how they celebrated Saturnalia. How does it get meshed into Christian celebrations? Now, Christianity, which starts in the Middle East, in the land of Israel, takes hold. It starts making its way to Europe. In order to bring pagan Europe into Christianity, they basically say, bring your customs. We will weave them into Christianity. This is a new religion. We could do what we want. So we're going to wholesale your Saturnalia into Christianity. But they don't change anything about Saturnalia. So in the 4th century, as Christianity starts taking hold in Europe, Saturnalia is woven into the tapestry that is Christianity. And the Christian leaders succeed in converting a lot of these Roman pagans because they said nothing about your life has to change. You could bring your old customs and bring them into Christianity. The only thing we're going to ask of you is that at the end of your Saturnalia festivities, let's celebrate something. Let's celebrate the birth of Jesus. Let's make that our last day. But the Christian leaders don't succeed in changing the very essence of Saturnalia. So Stephen Nissenbaum, who's a professor of history at the University of Massachusetts, writes, in return for ensuring massive observance of the anniversary of the Savior's birth by assigning it to the resonant date of Saturnalia, the church, for its part, tacitly agreed to allow the holiday to be celebrated more or less the way it had always been. The earliest Christian holidays were celebrating with drinking, sexual indulgence, singing naked in the streets. So this is Professor Stephen Nissenbaum, not a Jew, talking about Christian history. How do we know that Saturnalia was really actually frowned upon by the early Protestants? So we have this breakaway from the Catholic Church. We have the Protestants. I grew up, as you can hear from my accent, in America. So we know the names of those early Protestants. There was in Massachusetts 2 reverends. One was Increase Mather and his son Cotton Mather. The name just kind of sticks with you because the guy's name was Cotton. And in 1687, Increase Mather states the following: the early Christians who first observed the Nativity on December 25th did not do so thinking that Christ was born in that month. So 1687, Increase Mather in Massachusetts, who has left Europe, come to America, said, we left Europe, we don't have to do this anymore. They were willing to have the pagan holiday metamorphosized into a Christian one because we, the Puritans, know better. We know the pagan origin, and therefore in puritanical Massachusetts, it was illegal to celebrate Christmas. So you have this state of Massachusetts founded on Christian principles where it's illegal to celebrate Christmas because they said there is no such thing. It's based on a pagan holiday. So in Massachusetts, between 1659 and 1681, anyone found celebrating Christmas was put in jail. That's how much they were not into this. And yet, Christmas is celebrated. Some of the most disgusting celebrations of Christmas, sadly, become things against the Jews. So in 1466, Pope Paul II institutes a new Christmas tradition. So for the amusement of the citizens of Rome, he would force Jews to run naked through the streets of Rome on Christmas Day. But to make the race more entertaining, they would overfeed these Jews before they made them run through the streets. And then the citizens of Rome would pelt these Jews running naked through the streets on the 25th of December with any missiles they could get their hands on, amid taunts and laughter. So an eyewitness writes as follows: before they were to run, the Jews were richly fed so as to make the race more difficult for them, and at the same time more amusing for the spectators. They ran amid Rome's taunting shrieks and pleas of laughter, while the Holy Father stood upon a richly ornamented balcony and laughed heartily. So we're sitting here thinking, fine. It was the 15th century. It was the end of the Middle Ages. We're used to this, right? I want to take it forward to the 18th and 19th century. We have the rabbis of the ghetto of Rome who write to Pope Gregory XVI, begging him to stop this practice. It's gone on continuously since the 15th century. When Pope Gregory receives this letter from the Jewish community in 1836, the Pope writes back, "It is not opportune at this time to make any innovations. So it keeps on going. The last Christmas Day incident against Jews is in 1881. A preacher in Warsaw rallies up his congregation against the Jews. They leave church on Christmas Day and murder 12 Jews, maim and hurt hundreds of others, and rape countless Jewish women. And there's 2 million rubles worth of destruction to Jewish property. So Christmas is not looking so good for the Jews. But some of the things that I find that I really like, I'm a very visual person, and there are things I see regarding Christmas that really, like, I love looking at them. The first one is the Christmas tree. In America, people joke that you get a Chanukah bush instead. And I've always been fascinated by it. How does the Christmas tree become a custom? So it's all about the church fathers trying to bring in more and more pagan cults into Christianity. So the Christmas tree is as follows. There's a pagan cult called the Ashyra Cult in the Middle East. And this is one of the first cults to be wrapped into Christianity. The Ashyra Cult actually says, we don't want to be Christians, we worship a tree. And every year in the autumn, we cut down a tree, we bring it into our home and we decorate it. And the Christians say that's not a problem. Cut down the tree, bring it into your home, decorate it. The only thing we ask of you is, do you mind decorating it in anticipation of the 25th of December when we celebrate the birth of Jesus? And said, no problem. That's a fine date for us. And we wrap the Christmas tree, this Asherah tree, in Christmas, tinsel, and make it one additional part of the Christmas celebration. What about mistletoe, right? There's something really cute and romantic. You walk under the mistletoe and haphazardly some handsome man comes up and gives you a kiss. So here's the thing I found out about mistletoe, which is incredible. Did anyone know, and this is a 1 or 2 thing, the mistletoe is highly poisonous? Oh, we have a 1 from Angela and Marlene. Thank you very much. And Peter. Joy, I think that says Joy, right? I didn't know this, Howard. Thank you as well. I did not know mistletoe was highly poisonous and you need to handle it with care. So what is a poisonous plant have anything to do with a romantic gesture? Incredible story. The Christians really want to bring in as many pagan cults as possible. So let's go to the Norse and Celtic cults of Northern Europe. So the mistletoe is part of Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, the god Baldur used a mistletoe arrow to kill his rival god Hoder while they were fighting over the female deity Nanna. So Baldur kills Hoder in order to win Nanna with a mistletoe arrow. Druid sacrifices, which we know happen, are actually done with mistletoe based on the Norse mythology of Baldur and Hoder. Oh, it's craziness. So where's that kissing under the mistletoe? The sexual license of Saturnalia combined with this powerlessness you feel with this poisonous mistletoe come together. And up to about 100 years ago, if you were caught under the mistletoe, it was not a kiss. It was anything, any sexual license you could imagine would happen under that mistletoe. So it goes from being something really sweet to something really horrible in the space of a second. And it was known that if a woman was found outside of her home on the 25th of December alone, on her head be it. Sexual license was rampant. All right, Christmas presents. I do give my children Hanukkah presents. I will not lie. I do it because I want them to have presents. I want them to love Hanukkah. But there is no getting away from the fact that it is not a Jewish custom. The Jewish custom is to give Hanukkah money, and we didn't give it originally to our children. We gave it to their teachers. The time of year where you would give teachers a gift in the Cheders in Europe was Chanukah time. All of a sudden, we're not giving the money to the teachers, we're giving them to the children instead. And then we learned from the Christians about the gifts, but where does it originate? During Roman times, during the period of Saturnalia, the emperor's most despised citizens, or non-citizens as it were obliged to give the emperor gifts. Who are the most despised citizens of the emperor in Rome? The Jews. They were forced to give him gifts on penalty of death. All of a sudden, the emperor likes it so much, he goes, everyone should give me gifts. And everyone is forced to give the emperor gifts during Saturnalia. But don't worry, we're going to have a second gift custom that's going to come into play. And together is where this huge idea of gifts comes up. I'm going to take a sip of water. Anyone have a question? All right, let's continue. So who is the favorite character of Christmas? There's just one. Big chubby fella? Yeah, we're all with me. Santa Claus? Where does he come from? And this one, by the way, I've always wondered, what's the relationship between Santa Claus and Jesus? As a child, I knew that there was like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I'm like, and which one's Santa Claus? Is he the father, possibly? Like I went to all girls Jewish schools. No one was explaining this to me. And it turns out, I don't think they know either. Who is Santa Claus? Where does he come from? What is the Santa Claus story? Santa Claus, as it turns out, was a real person. There was a man named Nicholas, not Saint Nick. He'll become Saint Nick soon, but Nicholas was a man. And he was born in Parara, Turkey, not the North Pole, just making that very evident. Parara, Turkey, in the year 270 of the Common Era. He becomes the bishop of an area called Myra, also in Turkey, and he dies in 345 of the Common Era on December the 6th. Not the 25th. In the 19th century, so long afterwards, Nick becomes Saint Nick. He's given a sainthood, and Saint Nick's saint day is December the 6th, not the 26th. So what is going on here? How do we get a chubby, red-faced fellow wearing a red suit and black boots and celebrating on the 25th of December, and there are gifts and there are chimneys and there are reindeers and there's elves and there's cookies and milk? Like, holy cow, where did we get this guy from? Incredible, incredible stuff. So who is Saint Nick during his lifetime? And I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin this for all of you. We should not like Saint Nick at all. Saint Nicholas, or just Bishop Nicholas, is one of the people who presides over the Council of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea is when all the church elders get together. And they decide a few things. Firstly, they decide that when Easter is. They will no longer follow the Jewish calendar, which is when they were celebrating Easter. They'll follow their own calendar. And also, we have this pesky little problem. We've just brought in this massive amount of Romans into Christianity, right? We're bringing them in. These are the pagans we want. If we accuse them of killing Jesus, we've got a problem. Who killed Jesus? Yes, the Romans did it, but it was because of the Jews. Now let's get the story straight. Let's make sure we know who killed Jesus. And what was previously xenophobia, we were the other, now becomes anti-Jewish sentiment. And it starts at the Council of Nicaea, where the church fathers start instituting that relationship that we will suffer for the next 2,000 years, how Christian world views the Jews. And this is where it starts. And Nicholas is one of the church fathers who gathers these people together to come up with, firstly, the organization of the New Testament and some of the church teachings at that point. But how does Nick make it from Turkey into Europe? In the year 1087, a group of sailors comes to Turkey. They unearth the bones of Nicholas and they remove him from Turkey and they bury him, not in the North Pole, we haven't gotten there yet, in Bari, Italy. Now the issue is Bari, Italy has its own cult. It's called the grandmother cult. In Latin it is called Pascha Epiphania. And this grandmother cult has a grandmother figure that every autumn she brings children gifts, puts them in stockings, and hangs them on the hearth. No problem. We've got a guy called Nick. He's going to take over from the grandmother. Don't worry. Bye-bye, grandma. We've got Nick. So Nick comes in and takes over. But the grandma had this awesome thing. She had a parade every year. That's fine. We'll parade every year for Nick instead. And we're going to do it on December the 6th. We're still not at December the 25th. We haven't married yet the idea of Nick and Christmas. So we're celebrating Nick in Bari, Italy, who is now no longer in Turkey. And he is now giving gifts to children in stockings on the 6th of December and having pageants and parades. But we're still really, really interested in getting these Northern Norse and Celtic people into Christianity. So how are we going to do it? We're going to make Nick's cult move northward from Bari into the Germanic lands. And when he makes it up to the Germanic lands, there's already a god there. Balder, who we talked about before, his brothers Thor and Tu, as in Tuesday, have a father. The father's name is Woden. Everyone heard of Woden? If you've ever watched a Marvel movie, Thor, his father Woden. Woden has a big white beard. And every autumn, he gets on his flying horse and he flies through the sky. And the Norse people say, no problem, we'll join it, but can we bring, Woden in with us? No problem. Let's mesh Nick and Woden together. So now Nick, who came from Turkey, is no longer swarthy and dark. He now looks like Thor's father, and he's got a big white beard, and he's on a flying horse. And one night every autumn, he flies through the sky. But wouldn't it be great if that one night was the 24th to the 25th of December, and all of the sudden, Christmas and Santa Claus have found each other. It's a shidduch. They're super happy together. We still don't have the full picture. One of the ways that Woden was celebrated was with a Yule log. So they would they would cut a tree, they would schlep it into their houses, and every night for 12 nights, they would light this Yule log. It was a way of getting rid of evil spirits that would come in the winter in the dark, and until the 12th night, where they would stop burning it, and then they would put the Yule log under their beds to protect them from evil. So now we have Woden, who is Nick, and we've got a Yule log, and our Christmas is coming together beautifully. We just need a few more things and we're nearly there. So enter the American novelist, Washington Irving. Washington Irving, you may know, he's the one who wrote Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Rip Van Winkle, great, great author. He writes a less well-known satire called Knickerbocker History. It's the history of the Dutch community in New York. And in the satire, he refers to a flying horse, Saint Nick, but he calls him by his Dutch name. What is the Dutch name for Saint Nick? Santa Claus. And now we've got our name. It's amazing how things come together. And then Dr. Clement Moore in 1822 is in a carriage, and he's reading Washington Irving's telling of Santa Claus. And he's not great. Dr. Clement Moore says, I can't see this horse business. And I'm going to write a poem. And my poem is going to go like this. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in the hope that St. Nicholas would soon be there. And Dr. Clement Moore assigned Santa Claus 8 reindeer who descend through the chimney, and Santa Claus is nearly there. We've nearly got this guy together, almost, but not quite. Until this point, Santa Claus is neither good or evil. He goes in both directions, and we can still hear some backwards towards that when there's a song many of you will know, I sing along to it all the time. You better not pout, you better not cry, right? Santa Claus is coming to town. There's a Santa Claus that will reward good children, but he'll punish bad children. Santa Claus is portrayed in early pictures, not in red, but in black. He's bent over, he's hunched, he's sometimes big, he's sometimes small. There's no uniform look for Santa. He could be evil and he could be good. And it really is up to the child who's going to bribe Santa Claus with cookies and milk when he comes through the chimney, whether you are good or bad. When you sit on Santa's lap, have you been a good child this year? There is such a thing as Santa Claus punishing a bad child. But we still need to bring Santa Claus together. How does he come to be part of everyone's dialogue, everyone's idea? And that's down to the artist Thomas Nast. Thomas Nast completes more than 2,200 images of Santa Claus between 1862 and 1886 for I'll tell you, Harper's Weekly. He does tons of these drawings over and over. And before Thomas Nast, we didn't have one uniform picture of Santa. Thomas Nast develops Santa, and he gives Santa a home. Because until now, is he from Turkey? Is he from Italy? Is he somewhere in Germanic lands? Thomas Nast firmly puts our mythical Santa in the North Pole. He gives him a workshop, and he populates that workshop with elves. Where did the elves come from? They're cute. And that's where we are. But the full picture of Santa is still missing. There's one thing that everyone associates with Christmas. Nigella Lawson did it here. It's the color red. Where does that come from? And this is brilliant. Okay, Coca-Cola. What is one of the main ingredients of Coca-Cola? Someone's gonna say it, mouth it. Cocaine. Coca-Cola came from the cocaine is one of the main ingredients. For every glass of Coca-Cola, there was 9 milligrams of cocaine in it. That's what made it so addictive. And Coca-Cola Company needs to remove cocaine from their mixture, that special secret mixture. And unsurprisingly, sales plummet a bit. They took away the cocaine. The caffeine wasn't as addictive as the cocaine. And they come out with this great campaign. They hire a Swedish commercial artist called Hayden Sundblom. Hayden Sundblom's best friend is a man named Lou Prentice. Lou Prentice was a big, chubby guy with big red cheeks. And Sundblom draws Prentice as Santa Claus, and Coca-Cola says, amazing, we love him. But can you put him in red? Coca-Cola red, because that's what Santa Claus is going to look like. And all of a sudden, our picture of Santa Claus is concluded. He's a blend of this Christian crusader, a pagan god, and a commercial idol that helps sell Coca-Cola. I have talked so long. I want to wrap it up for you, but first I'd like to take some questions if anyone has them. And then we'll tie it into Chanukah, I promise.
Okay, right. Gosh, I mean, for us to sit here and listen to Rebbetzen give us an explanation of the origins of Christmas is quite something. I've learned so much there. The Saturnalia religion sounds a lot of fun, actually, in the old days. It's a pity it's lost some of its traditions, but Jews suffered at the hands of Christianity even in those early days. But I'm not sure a tradition of a Chanukah bush is something that we want to get into, really, but a fascinating talk nevertheless. Okay, let's open it up to questions. So
we've got Shlomo first and then Peter.
Okay, go on, Shlomo.
Thank you very much. Rebbetzen, you might be interested to know that the first mention of the Ashyra tree appears in the Parsha of Ki Sisot.
Wow. Okay, wait, I'm writing that down.
It's chapter 34 of Ki Sisot. You'll find that's the first mention of the Ashyra tree. Secondly, you mentioned Woden, who is, of course, the origin of our Wednesday.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering because I knew they didn't stop with Tuesday.
There you go. That's my contribution.
Fab. I've written them down. Thank you, Shlomo. Peter.
Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. And I never realized Christmas could be made so interesting. But I just want to ask you a question. When you say there was this lucky guy who was nominated to run the festivities for a whole week, and then at the end of it, he was murdered. How did they choose this person? Was he somebody who had done something really wrong?
I think you were unlucky. I started looking into it more this morning. In Tudor times, they also did this. And I'm not quite sure how they selected the person, but I do want to do some more homework. It wasn't clear to me how that person was selected.
Okay. And by the way, I've been admiring your bookcase. It's absolutely amazing, very neat. I congratulate you on it.
I'll let my husband know. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, can I just say something?
Joy?
I was just going to say we've got Joy, Daphne, and Anita.
Go on, Joy.
I just want to know the origin of Jesus' birth in the manger in Bethlehem and all that. How do our sages view that? Do you think it's
We don't even relate to it. It's just it's a non-occurrence.
Okay.
But it is in Luke and Matthew. We'll come back to Peter's wife after Daphne, Anita, and then Peter's wife.
All I wanted to say, many years ago when we were skiing over Christmas in Liechtenstein, St. Nicholas came round on the 24th of December. We were told that that's when the Europeans celebrate. They don't celebrate Christmas Day. They celebrate St. Nicholas. And he was dressed up he wasn't in red. He was in a big cloak with his staff and his beard. And my children were terrified of him. But
Daphne, if you've ever been in a hotel in America, many of them still have New Testament. And sorry, in America, in hotels, often many of them still have a New Testament in the drawers. If you're to open up the back cover of a King James New Testament, you'll find all the saints' days, and St. Nick Day is still in there on the 6th of December, and everyone's got their own customs, which is one of the reasons a lot of this doesn't hold water.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think in some European countries, Christmas Eve is more important than actually Christmas Day, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, who was next?
Anita, Peter's wife, and then Marlene and Stanley. It looks like you guys want to ask.
Belgium, in Antwerp, in Belgium. And I was going to say exactly what Daphne is going to say. The 24th is celebrated. The 31st, like Stuart just said, is a very, very, very big celebration. So it's all completely different, I think, what we're doing here in this country.
There's no consistency.
Well, no, yeah, it's all because there it's the 24th, and then the 31st is bigger, and here the 25th is probably our biggest day, isn't it? I mean, for the Christians.
All right, I keep on wanting to go to Anita, and can we just patiently wait for Anita to unmute herself? Or here, I'll unmute you. Go ahead, Anita.
Where is Anita?
Here.
Ah,
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
go on, carry on.
I just want to say that my son lives in Italy, and last week it was a national holiday because they always have it. It's a very Catholic country, as we know. That is the day of the conception of Jesus. And that was last week. And their main...
That was a very quick pregnancy then.
Yes, exactly. So that was last week, one of the days. I'm not quite sure which one it was. And that was a national holiday. And they also have a national holiday on January the 6th, which is Epiphany. Christmas is okay, but those 2 days are more important. Go no.
We never stop learning, do we?
No.
Who is next?
Anybody else?
someone in the home stuck their hand up. I don't know if he wants to speak.
Anybody in the Anita Dorfman home would like to ask a question?
No,
So let me bring it back.
there's Ian here.
All right, Ian Daniels. Go on, Ian.
Just to get one over on the Americans, we banned Christmas before the Americans did. We banned it in 1647.
Oh, wait, I need to write that down.
So, Ilana, are we helping educate you at the same time as you're educating us?
Always. I learned so much from these talks. I have to tell you, I'll just show you. I take notes while people are talking. That way I can look up more information. It's incredible how much I learned from these talks.
Good.
So what I wanted to wrap up with is as follows. Christmas has always been a careless holiday. And by careless, it's something that you've all mentioned already. What is the date? What are the customs? Where do they come from? They're amassed and put together in a careless fashion. It's been pagan and Norse and, Turkey and Italy, and it really is just a hodgepodge of different ideas brought to one. It's not similar at all to the way we celebrate a Jewish holiday. A Jewish holiday starts from the center, right? We've all got Pesach, say, or Chanukah, and every family does it their own way, but we all do the same thing. We just maybe, eat our matzah with a different topping type of thing, or no topping at all, because some people don't. But the center remains. We don't contest what day Pesach or Chanukah is. We know. We have a Torah, and it's based on that. What is actually being celebrated, right? It's not Jesus's birth. We've totally said that is not possible. What is being celebrated is Christianity. It's the idea that there was this new religion created that said Judaism is no longer relevant. You and your ideas were too much. A few years ago, I think Rav Elchanan did the same program I did. He did it the year after. I did this thing called Cambridge Interfaith. We were taken to Windsor Castle, and they brought 7 Jews, 7 Christians, and 7 Muslims together. I was still too American to know to keep my mouth shut in certain meetings. And our first meeting, we were given to read from the Bible, the Quran, and the New Testament. And they all chose portions having to do with kosher. And the portion in the Bible was Jews won't eat creepy, crawly bugs. And there was no discussion in the Bible. It said, you won't, you're not allowed, it is not permissible. In the Quran, it said, you can't eat a portion of a live animal. We have that in Judaism as well. It's called Ever Minachai. Basically, a goat is crossing the road. You cannot chop off its leg and eat the leg, right? That is not permissible. So Muslims feel the same way. And in the New Testament, the portion that they found closely associated with kashrut was the follows, that if you see a pagan sacrifice of an animal on an altar, you're not permitted to eat from a pagan sacrifice unless you're very, very hungry. So being a Jew where, you know, there is no unless, right? It's not like you can eat the creepy crawlies unless, you know, unless it's a matter of death, then you can't eat them. And what the New Testament said is, unless you're hungry, I'm always hungry. So that's not a valid reason. So I said, oh, wow, that's a real cop-out. The Archbishop of Exeter, she was there in the room, went off on me. She goes, you Jews, you don't even have to believe in God to be a Jew. And I said, yeah, that's true. You don't. I said, Judaism, it understands that sometimes I'm angry with God, and sometimes I love God, and sometimes I don't want to talk to God, and sometimes I do, but the practice never stops. So there's the story told that one of my rabbis, Rabbi Riskin, in the early 1960s went to a synagogue in Berlin. And in the back of the synagogue, there were 5 men who weren't praying. And they needed a minyan, and these men refused to join. And afterwards, Rabbi Riskin went up to them and he asked, why wouldn't you join? And they said, well, we don't pray to God. We don't believe in God. He said, then why are you in the shul? He said, these 5 Holocaust survivors turned around to him and said, well, where the heck are we supposed to scream at him unless we're in the shul? That's our relationship with God. And Christianity basically turned that around. They said, you have to love God, and that's enough. You love and you believe, and that's your relationship. You don't have to practice. And Judaism says you practice and you practice and you practice, and that's how you love. We know that from relationships. Sometimes I'm not so happy with my husband. It doesn't mean I walk out. It means I work harder. And that's what Chanukah is. It's hard work, right? This is not easy. None of our festivals are easy. None of them have pretty trees and pretty lights and fun songs. It's usually work. Someone's usually died to bring us to this moment. And we celebrate being Jewish. We celebrate that we can get together. There's 74 screens here because we love being part of this community during the hard times and the easy times. And I'm so grateful to all of you for giving me the opportunity to speak about this.
Ilana, thank you so much for your time. Rabbi Elchanan is actually with us now.
Okay.
I would like him to stay till after we have our cup of tea, whatever, but Rabbi, do you want to come in at all just before we say goodbye to Ilana?
Oh, Ilana, really good to see you. And hi, you're fabulous as always. We've got to have some adventures together. I think this is our first Zoom adventure that we're sharing. I had an interesting anecdote sharing on with your Christmas or Xmas discussion of the origins, the myths and things like that. I was asked by a school that I'm associated with, a primary school, to review a particular video that one of the local priests made in order to explain what Christmas is to a Jewish audience, to Jewish children's audience. The video did not pass my censorship because it is very difficult to explain Christmas in a way where it's appropriate, because it really is one of those two religions or two festivals that we couldn't be possibly more diametrically opposed on. It is, though, a very, very important time of year, and obviously this year more than any other time, it is in the public's mind. And I think, as always, you've done the subject great justice. So thank you very much for your scholarship and your humanity at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So much for having me. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
And to you, thank you, Ilana, for your
Anita
time.
Dorfman House, can you hear us?